Happy Friday!
Happy
Yay!
Friday!
I've got a feeling today's show is going to be an absolute corker.
I I look back on our shows and I have to say they are all corkers. However, I'm feeling a little bit frisky today and would like to address some issues I feel.
Thank goodness, it's my favourite when you're feeling frisky.
We should call them Frisky Fridays.
Oh my God, love it. Okay, done, deal, Frisky Fridays.
Done. The traditional landowners do a welcome to country.
Yeah.
That's what I took it to mean, is that she's making a statement saying that, thanks, but I don't need to be welcomed to my own country, nor do I need to be made to feel responsible for bad things that happened hundreds of years ago, which, our history of how we, like any country, the history of how they treated their Indigenous people is atrocious in just about every country.
Yeah, the English are the worst.
Yeah. So not that I'm saying ours is worse or better. I'm just saying that's what she's referring to anyway. And so I looked at the comments and I thought, oh gosh, most people that are commenting are agreeing with her. And I thought, do I say something? It was like, do I say something? Because from an NLP perspective, I looked at the language. And I guess I was also on some level judging, because I know that the person who put that post on there
is trained
in NLP. And I'm a huge, huge advocate for walk your talk. Do not teach something that you are not going to put your hand up and live it as well and learn it, So I guess, there's a bit of judgment from me in regards to that.
Well, it's just standards, really.
It's a standard, yeah.
So look at accountability. Sorry. I think it's accountability. I wouldn't say judgment.
Thank you. I'm like, I'll take that, Adam. Thank you. So if I looked at the first bit of language, thanks, but straight away, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so thanks is gone.
It's gone, yeah. Well, it's that, to me, the quintessential example I use when I'm teaching about use or appropriate use of the word but and how to understand it is, I'm not racist, or I'm not sexist, but blah, blah, blah. I'm not judging, but blah, blah, blah. As soon as you hear that but, you just you almost do the opposite. When they say, I'm not sexist, but you go, oh, yes, you are sexist. Incoming sexist comment. Don't you? That's how the brain processes it. So, yeah, I guess I thought, and then the second part of the post where it said, and I won't be made to feel responsible. So all I wanted to comment was, so really none of us hold the power to make anyone feel anything.
She's making herself.
And I thought, do I post it or do I not?
And you posted.
I think I did. I didn't.
Oh.
No, I didn't. And that's why I literally read it just before you and I got on here. So I only just read it. And now that you and I were talking, I thought, I'm going to ask Adam about that.
I think like a public post of conflict.
Yeah, nice.
Is probably never a well, it's a choice, put it that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A private mention, maybe, like a private message. Hey, look, I just saw your post. Then the other factor is, if you'd have taught her, then, there's a standard to uphold, right? It's not just the standard in the industry and blah, 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 but we know those are low by definition. So if she's been taught by somebody else. We don't, again, there's a speculation.
Yeah.
What has she actually been taught? Um, what's the quality of that? So, and then the other thing is, do you fucking care?
That's the other part of it is like,
Why do you care?
do I really care?
What are you
Do you
going
know
to get? What you get? What are you get? What are
what's in
you?
it for me?
Yeah, what's in it for you? And what are you not getting
Mm.
if you don't do it?
This leads me to another thought. So Anthony and I watched last weekend, I think it was, the Depp v. Heard.
So did I.
Did you watch? Now, something about that I
Can pick that apart hardcore.
right. However, the thing that I was going to mention right here on the back of what we were just talking about is how awful online comments can be. Just so nasty, Adam.
Oh,
So nasty.
because people take it so personally because it's either triggered them in some way or whatever, and they're trying to vent it. Some of the comments to Amber Heard, I was like, fuck, because
So
everyone's Johnny,
mean.
Johnny, Johnny. But I mean, she didn't do herself any favors. But I mean but that's a choice to live in that spec. If you live out in the
Mm,
public eye, you're going to get all those comments, right? I mean, I've had some terrible things said to me
mm,
on, you know, Facebook posts, traders and stuff like that, and I've literally been like, sometimes you have to go hard. So I've literally been like, um, well, please feel free to post all your evidence right here. Let's go.
mm.
And I will fucking sue your ass and gag you if you don't fucking stop. And most people just go, oh, okay. Because at the time I was like, my pockets are deeper than yours. I will bury you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because it's not
To
fair.
to trigger someone, for someone to be triggered so intensely that they will write things like, I hope you die, and I hope someone kills you and kills your children, and like that kind of just evil. Where does that come from? And what's the point of putting it? What is the person searching for by putting that on social media to them?
Well, exactly. Because then they get a rise out of other people, don't they? They get other people that are like, you're so disgusting. I can't believe you've said that. And then this just starts an all out brawl.
Mm,
In the comment strings. I mean, I've read loads of things myself, and you think, bloody hell. And then so the other people replying to that, because it's never
mm,
necessarily the actual person that's had it said to them. It's the other self designated defenders
yeah.
of that person that kind of come out and say it. What are
Mm.
they? What are they getting out of it? And it actually all comes down to the same thing, right?
So do you think the real anger that comes through, I'm not talking about sometimes there's effective argument that's put forward and people being curious and asking the questions and putting forward other perspectives and stuff. I'm all for that. I'm all for that healthy kind of, you know, let's brainstorm this
The
and get
debate, yeah.
perspectives. Let's debate it. Yeah. When it turns really personal and ugly and evil, I wonder if that in itself is actually just people who, in their own life, are not making space for things that are not aligned with them. They're angry about their lot in life, or they're angry about their relationship, or there's all this pent up, I suppose,
Well,
feeling.
they're not in alignment with themselves.
So they reflect it out on, they project it
So
out on.
perception is projection, right? And what we see in others is generally within us. Because somebody who's not thinking on those wavelengths, A, wouldn't be there in the first place. So
Mm,
you find people are kind of looking for that kind of stuff. That's a sweeping statement, not always. Sometimes it's just you might be casually reading something and think, oh, hang on a minute. Blah, 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 blah. But, in my experience, generally, you'd find that those people that shut their mouth off are they've just come out of a I don't know, maybe they've just been fired and they're sitting on the bus on the way home and they're like, you know what, someone needs to get it today.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's a venting and a release, isn't it? But again, it all comes down to the same thing. The person that made the first comment that's like, I hope you die, da da da. That's just pain,
yeah.
you
And they're
know.
not addressing it in themselves. So
Yeah,
let's make it someone else's problem, right?
exactly. And not really thinking about the consequences. If you say things like that, I mean, you it's always in your mind. You know that you've said it.
Is it though in theirs? When you, I mean, it's difficult, I suppose, because you and I might be sitting here thinking if we said something like that, we'd sure as shit remember it because we'd be dissecting it and talking about it. And
And very often, it's really a knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? I guess across the book, in general.
yeah,
Um, but I do think, because I've stopped myself from commenting and saying things myself, because you just think, well, do I have another 2 hours to waste talking to someone on the other side of the planet who
yeah,
is not on the same wavelength? Are you going to have a healthy debate? 99% of the time, you're probably not.
exactly. It's
Um,
not a
yeah,
debate.
and that's what I mean. I always think to myself, if I'm going to argue with this person, which is why I don't really do it anymore. The reason for that is because do they, and this is not in a judgmental way, although it is slightly judgy. Does the other person have the ability and the intelligence to, and the openness to take on my point of view, or is it just going to be a backwards and forwards?
Because we
You
don't
know,
know their mind space at the at the time.
we don't know who they are, so it's just like let bygones be bygones and leave people to their own stinking mess that they're sitting in, because that's the only reason they would say that stuff, right? 'Cause it's horrible. It's horrible, isn't it?
It's really, oh,
Really
just
horrible.
mean stuff. Really mean and very inhumane, a lot of it.
Yeah, it's just being triggered. They've been triggered by the whole thing in some way, whether
Mm,
it's a direct similarity to an experience they've had themselves, or whether they're just like, self. But my dad, bless his heart, um, he was a self-professed man of justice. Like, if something had happened in the congregation or something like that, he would take it upon himself to be the defender of the faith with that, against the establishment. It's just like, oh my God, what are you
yeah.
doing? Like, they didn't ask you to do it. What are you doing? So, well, I just a man of justice. Okay, man of your own opinions, basically.
Yes. So often that's what it is, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe growing up with him was, what made me a really good arguer, maybe. But it's just,
Trained.
yeah, as a highly trained spiritual arguer. Um, again, ask yourself these questions. Is it before you say something? I always run, well, say always. I make a conscious effort to make sure I run the filters of, is it, is it important? Is it nice? Is it important? And is it kind? Is it important? And you know, is it
Yes.
worth it? Is
Is
it
it
worth
necessary? Like, is
it?
it?
That's the word, necessary.
I got you. Mm.
Majority of the time, it's not necessary at all.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
this is
and
the
if it's nastiness, it's not nice. So just don't say it.
and nastiness, to be honest, I don't know that that's ever necessary.
It's never necessary.
It's never necessary because the nastiness is, as you pointed out before,
Unless someone's coming at you with a 6-inch kitchen knife, then you got to get a bit nasty, probably.
but
But
even that verbal nastiness, what's that going to do for you? It's pain, isn't it? Like you said. And this goes to the heart of the reason I called this podcast Automatic Mouth, because it takes practice because we will still go through life being triggered by different things. We never know until we're in the position. And that trigger is the indication for us to, oh, okay, it's time to deal with how I feel or what I believe about that thing now. So the difference then is you either have an automatic mouth where everything just spews out of you rather than you being reflective, introspective, thinking about how you feel about things, taking that pause, like you just said. It takes practice to pause when you are feeling affected or triggered by something, to turn it inwards and look. Otherwise, if you don't do that, your automatic mouth takes off and you've said things that, as we spoke about before, you say things that face to face perhaps, and, you know, in hindsight, you think, oh, probably shouldn't have said that. Oh, I feel a bit bad about that.
God, I've got a raft of those.
Right.
Well, I mean, like, and I used to be proud of my automatic mouth,
Yeah.
you know, because actually, you know, I used to probably look at that way of being as a sign of strength.
Yeah. Quick wit. We'd
Yeah,
see it.
all that kind of stuff. I mean, I can remember being, you know, there was I had a senior role in a production, very big, well-known production studio, and for like imagery for advertising and things like that. And you know, got the job, da da da. And then, to be honest, I was kind of, hopefully they're not listening. You know, if I look back on it, could I have done better? Yes, probably. Could I have been nicer? Yeah, absolutely. But I was, you know, feeling a bit entitled at the time.
Mm.
And I can remember them trying to make me and my colleague redundant. But you know, they were not being very good about it, and I just went to town, like F this, F that, blah blah blah. You know, in a boardroom, it's just like, well, that's not very professional. You know, am I proud of it? No. Did I get a nice lump sum out of it, more than I should have got? Yeah, for both of us. So, so luckily it did work. But you know, those what will those people remember? You know,
Yeah.
about me? Yes, I got X, Y, Z out of it, but you know, you have to think on multiple levels when you're going to do things like that. What's the you know, what's the real consequences? We're free to choose. We're not free from the consequences of our choices. What's the, you know, if you choose to go down a certain road of communication, you got to think about the outcome first. Where do I want to get this? What outcome do I want?
Mm.
Otherwise, you're just going to fight.
And the standard as well, Adam. The
Yeah,
standard you're setting, you know, so the way you communicate, if you're going to spit vitriol and that's what you're putting out there, then you better believe that's the standard you're telling the people around you that you're quite happy at. So, you know, you've got to be able to take that right back at
yeah.
you
So
as
so it becomes a rod for your own back.
yeah, for
You know?
sure.
Because actually, when I think about, you know, that kind of, in a lot of cases, that kind of defensive, you know, show of strength, attack first, ask questions later, you know, the best form of defense is attack and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
is because somebody is not strong,
that's it.
is,
Yeah,
well, sorry, is not feeling strong.
yeah, not feeling
Everybody's
strong.
strong. They're just not necessarily in alignment with their strength per se.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I realised that actually being that way was really a display of my pain and my weakness and all that other stuff. I'd create this persona to fight out there in the world, and it was just not getting me. It was not getting me. Well, it was getting me somewhere, but it wasn't getting me to where I wanted to get to.
Which is, you know, what we're looking for, coming back to the start of our conversation, that alignment with who you really are, you
Yeah,
know. And at our core, we want to be heard, we want to be accepted, we want to belong, we want to be loved and love others. And it gets covered up with all of this, you know, peacocking, doesn't it? Because we've been hurt or triggered, or and we've lived through trauma. All these sorts of things happen to us, which puts these layers over our connection to who we really are.
absolutely. Um, so it's about, you know, hearing yourself,
Yes.
loving yourself, you know, um, connecting to yourself. So then because otherwise, what are you uploading and connecting to other people?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you imagine yourself as a little USB, what's on the USB? And if you stick it in that computer, what's going to happen? That's what you're connecting to other people with, right? If you, connect that little shitty USB to a shitty computer, doesn't matter. But, what are, what are, what responsibility are we taking for ourselves? Because everything else is a reflection of that. So if you want to know where you're at, look at what's around you and the reflection of it. We'll
You
tell
can,
you, we'll tell you the
yeah,
story.
that's it. That's beautiful. And it really, to bring it back to the Depp v. Heard situation, and the social media stuff I'm referring to about it. The same person who might put a post up there, such and such should be killed because the world's better off without her, that kind of stuff, will be the same person then that will look around and say, oh, we need more laws because there's so much murder going on and so much death and no one's safe in their own home. That's the same person whose knee-jerk reaction when they don't know how to regulate their own emotions comes out and says, oh, that person should die. I hate that person. We should all bash that person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Without really understanding, because she would have gone through some stuff. Like, is she potentially a huge narcissist or narcissistic behavior? Yeah, but again, in what we're teaching, right? It's how to like you said, you just hit it on the head, regulating your emotions, and you do that by understanding how the mind works, and therefore you can never really get upset with anybody because you always look at it from their perspective. People are not their behaviors.
Exactly.
Amber Heard was doing her thing in really the way she only knows how. She's learned that behavior somewhere. And, if her husband is getting drunk and off his tits all the time, that probably is quite frustrating.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about it, so he has to take responsibility for that. I mean, that case was all about defamation. That's a whole other ball game. You know,
Exactly.
that if she could have done that differently, yes, possibly, but she definitely doesn't deserve to die.
No. And I would like to put our caveat in here. When we say people are not their behaviors, by no means are we excusing behavior. That's not what this is about.
Yes.
It's not excusing and saying, oh, well, it's okay, someone acts like that. What we're seeking to do when we say people are not their behaviors, we're seeking to teach people to look deeper rather than react on someone's behavior, because then you're just as unregulated emotionally as they are. So rather than react and sort of fall into their vortex,
Yeah.
take a step back. People are not their behaviors. Instead of looking at the behavior, look what's underneath it. What's causing that? What's going on underneath there? And then, yeah, take responsibility. If what's underneath there is not, not my monkeys, not my circus, walk away and be done with it. However, if you want to get involved, then level up and address the root cause, not the behavior that's being shown to you.
Exactly.
Let's answer my own question from the beginning of this whole discussion.
And there we go.
And there we have loop closed.
End show.
End show. That is a good place to end the show. Do you feel like we've
I think that was an awesome riff. Loved it.
loved it? Love every minute. Love you. Love your back. Love your front.
Love it. Oh, love your back and front too.
All right, treasure.
All right,
Love.
love.
Nah,
Mwah.
next.
Next
Bye for now.
Friday.